This is News You Can Use.
Can I take like 2 minutes to explain something that I'm in the middle of a series of press meetings. So I met yesterday with the New York Times. I'm meeting with the Wall Street Journal today. I met with some other people from the Wall Street Journal in New York yesterday. National Mortgage News. I do this periodically, partly because I'm trying to understand what's the theme that the press is picking up on. So is there something we can add in terms of information to help them get it right? Because they impact markets by the way that they write. So we don't go for quotes, we go to help them build the background context. I've been bothered for the last month and a half that there's a lot of uncertainty about what the real story is in housing. So I referenced the very low level of existing home sales, actually the same level of sales as we saw at the end of the great financial crisis. So it feels like a recession if you're a loan officer developing loans for existing home purchases. But the causes are different. It's not actually a recession because we didn't see a dramatic run up in unemployment. We didn't see a collapse in corporate profits. We didn't see income curtailment in other areas. It's a function of the monetary policy to some degree, as Pat said, setting interest rates close to zero, which meant mortgage rates of 2.5% to 4%. That was an opportunistic opportunity for consumers that took advantage of that because the COVID made them concerned about their health. So they maybe moved forward decisions they'd have made about housing, both driven by COVID and health considerations and this historic opportunity on interest rates. So it has nothing to do with the recession. It actually has to do with fear and an opportunity. So on the other hand, the headlines sort of sound optimistic because prices are going up. Well, what's the story with that? If you look at total home sales today, the share of total home sales that are new home sales are at historic highs. Then if you look within new home sales, the share of new home sales that are to first-time home buyers is also an historic high. So when mortgage rates passed 7%, the structured finance space, the mortgage-backed security space, basically stopped. The reason it stopped is because no one who was an investor in that space believed that when the Fed ended its attack on inflation and got it back to 2%, that rates wouldn't come down and all those 7% mortgages would refinance into 5% mortgages. So the risk of prepayment was so great, they simply wouldn't take the risk. So Pat is very familiar. One of the responses of Supreme Lending, and particularly of builders, was to buy down interest rates. Now in the past, to move inventory, builders would have offered granite countertops or finished basements or other attributes of a house to encourage the sale. But the fact that they offered 2-1 buy downs represented their recognition that the marginal buyer was actually a first-time buyer, and the challenge of first-time buyers is the down payment and being able to finance the payments over time. So instead of offering those attributes, they offered to that group what they really needed. Here's another anecdote. Warren Buffett recently invested something north of $700 million in D.H. Horton. He's a pretty smart investor. It suggests that he thinks that it is going to be the marginal buyer that will be the first-time buyer in the newly constructed home space for some time to come. We would agree with that. It's really important to get a sense of the structure of what's taken place because there are some significant differences today from the past. So thanks for putting up for that for a minute, but I have had the feeling for the last month and a half that there's a little confusion about optimism, pessimism, what's the structural reality about what's taking place in the home market.